home is a place where silence has settled like dust, soft, unseen, but everywhere. The kind of quiet that isn't empty, but full of the things we don't say. I watch the sunlight fall through the window each morning, stretching across the worn wooden floor, touching the edges of things. The old vase on the shelf, the threadbare cushion where Amir likes to sit, the spot where the cat sleeps curled like a forgotten secret. It all feels frozen in time, safe but still. I'm Samir, 34 years old, with hair cut short just above my jawline, a dark honey brown that sometimes catches the light and looks like it's glowing from within. Amir always liked my hair longer, but I trimmed it shorter last winter. It's easier now, in these quiet days, to keep things simple. He is good to me, steady and kind, with eyes like deep wells that hold more than they show. His voice is calm, his hands gentle. Sometimes, when he looks at me, I feel a warmth that reminds me of summer evenings by the sea, soft, slow, and endless. For years, I told myself that was enough. That love was built not from fireworks or storms but from this quiet, unchanging peace. But lately, I've felt something slipping beneath the surface, a restlessness, like a shadow that lingers just at the edge of my vision. It's hard to name. Not sadness, not anger. More like a silence that stretches too long between heartbeats. A space where questions grow like weeds. I find myself watching the clock more often, measuring time in moments I don't understand. I catch my reflection in the mirror and wonder who's looking back, a woman I know, but also a stranger with eyes that hold secret thoughts. Sometimes, I walk alone. Not far, just down the street, past the bakery where the scent of fresh bread mingles with the sharp bite of morning air. I watch the roses climbing the old fence, petals soft and fragile as if they might fall away with the slightest breeze. I breathe in the world outside our still house, feeling the life I've forgotten stirring just beneath my skin. One evening, Amir asked me what I was thinking about. I told him it was nothing. A small lie, wrapped in a smile. Because it wasn't nothing. It was a whisper. A gentle ache. A question I wasn't ready to answer. The days stretch ahead like a road I'm hesitant to travel. And in the quiet between heartbeats, I wonder. What if peace isn't all there is? What if beneath the surface, something else waits to be found? The days after that night stretched long, heavy with thoughts I tried to keep locked away. Each morning I moved through our home like a shadow, present, but distant. Amir's voice called from the kitchen, warm and familiar, but it sometimes felt like it belonged to someone else. I answered without truly hearing. In the quiet, I found myself craving something I couldn't name. Not excitement, not rebellion, but a feeling, small and fragile, like a single flame trembling in the dark. I began taking walks more often. Not to escape, but simply to breathe. Down the narrow streets where children's laughter echoed faintly, past shops with flickering lights and signs faded by years of sun. I noticed things I'd overlooked before, the curve of a wrought iron gate, the way sunlight pooled beneath a tree, the smell of rain on hot asphalt. One afternoon, I paused near the cafe on the corner, where the old wooden bench was worn smooth by countless hours of waiting and watching. A man sat there, reading a book, his presence unremarkable yet strangely comforting. I didn't know his name. I didn't speak. But for a moment, we shared the same space, breathing the same air, feeling the same slow passing of time. His face was a map of quiet kindness, eyes that held stories I couldn't hear. When our eyes met briefly, I felt a flicker, like the first brush of wind stirring still water. I looked away quickly, heart fluttering, ashamed of the warmth that spread beneath my ribs. That night, lying beside Amir, I felt both tethered and untethered, bound by years of love and familiarity, but reaching towards something unknown. I wondered if I was betraying him with my thoughts alone. But it wasn't just him I was afraid of betraying. It was myself. The woman I thought I had become. I began to write again, putting pen to paper in a small leather journal I'd kept hidden on a shelf. Words spilled out, fragments of dreams, whispered wishes, questions without answers. In the stillness, I found a voice I hadn't heard in years. Soft, trembling, but real. Amir noticed a change in me, subtle but real. He smiled more often, tried to draw me out with gentle questions, touched my hand lightly across the table. And still, I kept the growing restlessness secret. a secret held close like a fragile seed waiting to bloom or wither. Every evening, I wondered, what would happen if I let the window open just a little wider? If I breathed in more than just the safety of what I knew? The answer hovered just beyond reach, a quiet promise, or perhaps a warning. The days grew longer, and with them, the space inside me stretched in ways I couldn't quite hold. I found myself drifting more often, eyes tracing patterns in the ceiling, fingers lingering on the soft fabric of my sleeves, mind wandering to places where light and shadow played quietly. Amir was still there, patient, steady, the calm harbor in my restless sea. But I was beginning to see the cracks in the glass between us, faint lines where light slipped through, uninvited. Sometimes, I caught myself watching the way other women moved, the tilt of their heads, the curve of their smiles, the ease with which they embraced the world. I wondered what it would be like to be seen through those eyes, to feel the pulse of something unexpected. The man from the cafe had become a quiet presence in my thoughts, not as a figure of desire, but as a symbol of possibility. One afternoon, I found myself sitting closer to where he had been, pretending to read, though my eyes rarely left the door. He never came. But the idea of him, of that other life, just beyond reach, whispered to me like a soft wind through an open window. I began to notice the way the light changed on my skin, the subtle warmth of a breeze that carried unknown scents. I noticed how my heart would quicken when a stranger's glance lingered just a moment longer than necessary. I did not act on these feelings. I only felt them, like shadows playing behind closed doors. One evening, Amir brought home a small bouquet of wildflowers. He placed them on the kitchen table, smiled, and told me they reminded him of my eyes, calm and deep and full of quiet beauty. I smiled, truly smiled, but inside a flicker of something else stirred, a restless question that refused to be soothed. Could love be both safety and fire? Could peace hold space for longing? I folded my hands in my lap and tried to listen to the silence, to hear what it was trying to tell me. Sometimes, I thought of telling Amir everything. The thoughts, the questions, the secret flutterings I barely understood. But the words caught in my throat like birds trapped beneath glass. I feared shattering the fragile calm we had built. Yet in keeping silent, I felt myself drifting further away. The nights grew heavier, filled with dreams I could not quite grasp, flashes of light and shadow, unfamiliar voices calling softly, hands I could not see but felt as if they brushed my skin. I woke often, heart pounding in the quiet dark, wondering if I was losing myself or finally finding a part one had long forgotten. And in that stillness, I understood. I was standing at the edge of a choice. A threshold I wasn't yet ready to cross. But one whose door was slowly opening. The moment came without fanfare, as if it had been waiting quietly in the folds of my days, ready to unfold only when I was least prepared. It was in the way a brush of a hand lingered longer than it should, or how a look held a question that neither of us dared to voice. A sudden closeness that felt like both comfort and betrayal. I remember the smell of rain outside the window, soft and clean, as if the world itself was trying to wash away what was about to happen. My heart thrummed unevenly, caught between the pull of something new and the weight of all I had promised. The gentle sound of Amir's voice calling my name echoed somewhere far away, lost beneath the noise of my own thoughts. I could feel the thread loosening, the fabric of our life, woven with years of trust and love, trembling under the strain of silence and secrets. There was no grand declaration, no moment of thunderous guilt. Just a quiet surrender, a decision wrapped in hesitation and whispered doubts. In those moments, I was both myself and someone I barely recognized. A woman craving more than the steady rhythm of routine, yet terrified of what that craving meant. The nights that followed were restless. I lay awake, listening to the slow, steady breathing of the man beside me, wondering how much he sensed, how much I hid. The spaces between us felt colder, filled with things left unsaid and truths too fragile to share. Guilt settled over me like a heavy fog, not sharp or fierce, but dull and persistent. It pressed against my ribs, making each breath a little harder to take. Yet beneath that fog, there was a strange clarity, an awakening to the complexity of the heart, how it can hold tenderness and pain, loyalty and longing, all at once. I never meant to hurt him. But in seeking a part of myself I'd forgotten, I stumbled into shadows that stretched longer than I imagined. And now, as the days pass, I live with the echoes of my choice. The quiet aftermath where love and loss entwine. Where forgiveness is a fragile thread, and hope is a distant light still flickering. I do not know what the future holds. Only that I must face it, piece by piece, breath by breath. Learning who I am beyond the promises I made, beyond the life I knew. And perhaps, in that journey, there is a chance. For healing, for truth, and for the quiet courage to begin again.